Welcome back to the Midlands Rugby Podcast. We're on episode 4 of season 4. Phil, how you doing?
I'm very well, mate. A little bit sore from Saturday's close quarters game against West Ridgeford. The weather suits me to the ground when it's like that now, because if no one can move, then we're all on a par again, aren't we? So, a bit of a sore neck.
If everyone's running through treacle, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm in the game. But yeah, looking forward to a good podcast with an ex-colleague of mine.
Yeah, would you like to introduce your mate?
Sure. So today we've got Craig Hammond, current head coach at Nottingham Rugby, ex-player at Nottingham Rugby, and he does a hell of a lot of other things and has done a hell of a lot of other things. So I will let him introduce himself. Hammo.
How are you guys? Thanks for getting me on the show. Craig Hammond. So, yeah, probably call me Hammo. I don't think many people call me Craig Hammond. Yeah, played with Phil for a few years at Nottingham and, kind of played, 11 years at Nottingham and been away for about 9 years, been coaching overseas and then been back about 2.5 years as head coach of Nottingham, mate. So, good to be back, mate. A little bit different as a player and then coming back as a coach, mate. So different stresses, but having a good time, mate.
Cool. So you obviously started playing your rugby, as the accent would say, in New Zealand. Do you just want to talk us through sort of like how you got into the game and where you played?
So I think it's similar to football here or soccer or whatever you call it in this country, isn't it? Everyone kind of grows up with a rugby ball, don't they? So started playing rugby probably when I was about 4. And then, you always want to be an All Black from the age of about 5 onwards. Played pretty young and then go through all the school stuff and then played age grade stuff for Wellington and then a bit of Hurricanes stuff and then got into New Zealand 19s and all that kind of stuff and then was tracking pretty well, but it's all very amateur over there, so it's all part-time, so I was kind of working, finishing school on the side. It's a little bit different to what it is over here with all the academy systems and all that, so it was kind of, you play your club rugby. I come straight out of school at 17. I was getting the shit kicked out of me in the men's premier game, which I think that's the positive for rugby in New Zealand, so you don't kind of drop into academies. You literally go straight into men's rugby and then go from there, really. So kind of cut my teeth pretty young as a player, and then opportunity arose randomly. I was in between contracts in Wellington, trying to play Super Rugby, trying to play as high as I could, and then opportunity. My old man worked for a company that did a bit of work in Nottingham, so they said, "Oh, if your son ever wanted to come over here, we've got a rugby team." And so here I went. We're in National 2 then, and so I come over for 6 months, and I turned up, and I was like, absolutely hated it. It was freezing. It was cold. Again, I got the shit kicked out of me by some grizzly men. I was only 21 then, so I thought I was hot shit. And then I got tucked up quite a bit and said I'd never come back again. And then I kind of stayed for 11 years, mate. So, and I learned how to, learn how to be a little bit physical and learn how to dish it out a little bit more over my years, mate. So, that's how I ended up in Nottingham. It's a bit of a random story, but if my old man wasn't working over here a bit or had contacts over here, I would have never come to Nottingham kind of thing. So, and the rest is history, really, mate. So it's gone on from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you first joined Nottingham, that would have been Island Avenue.
Yeah.
As it was for me. I think I was there for the final few years while I was in the academy. But you, like you say, you were in Nat 2 at that point, and you were playing with some interesting characters, and you have played with some interesting characters throughout your time there. When did you take on the captaincy at Nottingham?
I did a year. So Mark Bradley, which was our captain, so he's a Derby man, so he was captain of Nottingham for a few years. I come in again, like I said, as a 21-year-old lad, and I'd always captained all my teams in New Zealand. So right through first 15, Wellington, New Zealand 19s, I was tracking pretty well over in New Zealand to kind of captain a lot of stuff over there. So then I come over, and that's all I knew really. And then had a season at Nottingham, and then when I come back the following year, I took over the captaincy. So I was pretty young. I think I was 22, possibly just turned 23 to take over from one of the old boys that had been at the club. So a bit of a change into the guards, really. And then I had 10 years captain at Nottingham. So a few games, mate. So and it kind of I loved it, mate. I've always been like that. Didn't matter kind of who was how old I was. I was kind of think I thought I kind of was always born to do that kind of thing. So I don't know whether you're born to do it or you just like telling people what to do. I don't know.
I think people that think you're born to do it probably think they're born to do it, but it's not really a case. It's just you put your hand up first, and everyone goes, "Oh, we'll give him a fucking job." Right? Okay, it doesn't really matter.
I think so, mate. I think so. I think they're trying to keep me in the country, mate. That's all. Like, let's make him captain, then he can never fucking leave. Don't worry.
Knowing Glax, that might have been the move. So you were in that too in Nottingham at the old Island Ave. You had a couple of promotions and got into the old Nat 1. Oh, well, one promotion and got into the old Nat 1, which is now the Championship. My first memory of watching you and some of the lads play would have been the Harlequins game at Island Avenue. So Harlequins got relegated from the Prem and dropped down for the year, but they had a bit of a star-studded team. Was that the first time you came across Mertens, or did you play across?
No, I think I've played. May have had a game like Wellington against Canterbury, and he was like a superstar back then. But like they were freaks, weren't they? I think it was 2004, Island Avenue, and they were. My mission was to try smash Mertens, like just childhood. You grow up, watching him on TV and absolute legend of the All Blacks, and you thought, I'm going to kill him, but I couldn't even touch him, mate. So just pulled the strings, mate. So that was class. That was an awesome memory because, like I said, we played them in the Prem Cup a couple of weeks ago, and that kind of reminded me. Well, shit, it was years ago, wasn't it? Like what it was like playing them then, and it was kind of full house at Island Avenue, wasn't it, mate? So pretty special memory like that.
Yeah, that's probably the first time I came and watched you guys, and then moved across to Lady Bay and played at Meadow Lane. That was kind of when I started taking it more seriously, and soon ended up training with you guys when I was just before I turned 18, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether you remember this session, Hammo, but you remember the drill called the terrorist cell.
Yep.
Yeah, so my first session, I get pulled out of this academy training, having had a decent game against Leicester Tigers, which we've spoken about here before. Get pulled out of training by Glax, who drags me over to the train with the first team on Trent Pool, and this massive squares set up, and there is just blood and pads, and it was absolutely horrific. And basically Glax just put me in the centre and gave me the ball and told me to run, and I think the first person that hit me was Lee Morley, and he absolutely obliterated me.
Mate, I don't know how's that legal, that fucking drill, mate. So
I did it last week with the Pavs boys.
Oh mate, Glax is in Japan. Glax is in Japan as like head coach of fucking Mitsubishi now, and I'm sure he'll be still doing that bloody drill.
Oh yeah, 100%. So for anyone who doesn't know that drill, basically it's just a square across the pitch, and there's about 4 people with tackle pads, 5 people with tackle suits, and then you'll basically start on one side and you have to get to the other with the ball, and if you don't, you normally get absolutely clattered, and sometimes you get clattered without the ball as well. So interesting way to start my professional training career. I did turn up for the Thursday session, and luckily that was more team run, which was much more my style.
It was funny, like I was speaking to Ian Kinchy. Did you play for Kinchy? Yeah, so he's down at Richmond, and we're talking about like he was coming through the academy, like him, and there must be like Graham Chenoweth, like there's loads of those guys, and we'd always, it's fucking stupid, isn't it? But like the young boys are coming and you just like kick the shit out of them. Like again, how's that normal? But like you just like get in the middle there and run through there. But it was we're having a few stories about how what you used to do to them. They're like shit, that wasn't right, but it worked, didn't it, mate? So do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, it really works. My back's great now. So Kenshi was in the year above me, as was Joe Gray. And Ross McMillan. So I came in through I think I was the only one from my age group that stayed all the way through. Obviously, Callow came back later on. But yeah, that was an eye opener for sure.
They probably just looked at the size of your head at that age and just went, oh, fucking, he must be able to be tough as with a head like that. That's all. Just lead with it.
Literally haven't really had a decent conversation for about 9 years, and he comes straight back with the headshots.
It is a fucking boulder, though, isn't it?
Sorry, keep going, mate.
Yeah, so it was quite funny. Me and my wife just been watching a thing called Ghosts on BBC, and there's a Neanderthal in that, and she just turned to me during watching that and said, "He's got the same forehead as you."
Yeah, do you know what? I watched that not long ago, and I thought I won't tell Phil, but he's definitely based on. Also, before we go back to rugby, is that your tutu, Ruth's tutu, or one of the girls' tutus behind you?
Well, I ain't getting in that.
I don't know. From a distance,
I think that's the cheap £100 tutu that I bought for Lucy's 5-minute show, which I'm delighted for.
Oh, being a dad, eh? Glad I'm not. Yeah,
right. So, Hammer, you did. We'll come back to times at Nottingham, because I'm sure you got plenty of stories from those 11 years and the random loose individuals that we played with. Towards the end of your time at Nottingham, you moved into the second row, and then you kind of started looking elsewhere. I think you left a year before I did. I think you left just before Hagi came in.
2012, yeah.
Yeah. And you disappeared. Well, I remember having a conversation with you actually before you left, saying, "Oh, I've got this gig in Hong Kong." I was like, "Oh, that sounds awesome." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Oh, what are you doing there?" He goes, "Oh, I'm going to go coach London Scottish, and do a bit over there." I was like, "Oh, cool." He goes, "Yeah," and then we're going to go home. And it's just like a little short journey on the way home to the Wellington area of New Zealand. I think, is it Upper Hutt you're from?
Yeah, Upper Hutt. Yeah.
Yeah. On the way home there, and then. Yeah, do you want to explain what happened in Hong Kong?
No, how that come about, it was random, really. Like I was kind of 32. I was still playing semi-decent footy. I was still captain and that kind of stuff. And I randomly signed a new contract at Nottingham, so I was kind of tied in for a couple more years. And then I was trying to get on the coaching ladder, because I knew, mate, I did my apprenticeship as a motor mechanic. I wasn't kind of built for too much more. I didn't want to go back doing that. I love the coaching side. I've always coached kind of Nottingham University while I was playing. I coached Ilkeston for a couple of years, that kind of stuff. So I community stuff and all that. So I kind of always loved the mindset of coaching and trying to give back and learning that. So I kind of was trying to get into a bit of coaching at the club. Felksy had just retired and was doing a bit of the forward stuff and that, so there wasn't really an in. Then I was sitting there thinking like, oh, well, I'll carrying on playing for a couple of years and see how we go. And then stupidly got contacted by, again, this is how weird it is, one of my mates, my father worked with the guy that was in Singapore randomly, and he gave my name to a guy that's in Hong Kong, and they were looking for a player coach for Hong Kong Scottish, which is kind of tied into London Scottish. It was a new club started in Hong Kong, and they contacted me and said, "Would you be interested in this player coach role?" And I was like, "Mate, they don't even have rugby in Hong Kong." Like, I had no idea. And then he's like, "Oh, we'll just had a couple of phone calls and that kind of stuff." And then I thought, bugger it, we're in the off season, so me and my old man flew over from New Zealand. I flew into Hong Kong, and we did a week in Hong Kong just to have a look around and met everyone, and thought, shit, this could be a good go. And it was all like how it works over there. It's all tied into the Hong Kong Rugby Union. So you're employed by Hong Kong Rugby Union, and then you get given to a club. So they look after you and they do all your coaching and that side of it. It's a really good setup there. So I was like, well, let's go to 2 years. So I signed a 2-year contract. And then I said, we'll go back to New Zealand and get into the coaching world in New Zealand. So that was the plan. And then I kind of signed a contract in Hong Kong while I still had my contract in Nottingham. So I was like, I'm in the shit here. So I went back to Glax and I kind of said, hey, mate, this has happened. I'm going to probably bounce. And it was a pretty tough decision because I've been at the club for 11 years. And then it just went from there. Me and Rosie, like my wife and that, we kind of always, you got to do what you got to do. Do you know what I mean? Like we said we could always come back if we needed to, but the time was right to go. So, and then about 2 weeks after that, Glax said he was going to London Irish as well, mate. So there was a complete bloody overhaul. But yeah, so went to Hong Kong and was player coach for a couple of years because I still thought I was good at rugby, and I was doing okay over there. But found it pretty tough, the player coach role, as you'd know yourself. And then I was starting to get involved in the national team for Hong Kong, but what was happening on the games, I was kind of dusting a few of the people up that I'd have to be coaching, because you get older, don't you, and more gnarly and more wiser, and they were too fast for me. So I was kind of getting in a few tussles, and then I got kind of called in and said, you either have to stop playing or you can't progress your coaching career with Hong Kong. So I kind of hung the boots up, because otherwise I'd be out of a job, really, and then kind of got into the coaching. And then I think that kind of kicked on really well, and then I just kept on signing 2-year contracts, and did 9 years. Finished off. I just signed a new contract as head coach of Hong Kong, and I was tracking pretty well. And then randomly, Steve Smith and Simon Beefin and all that chased me when Phelpsy left, and said, would I come back? And I kind of, it went from there, really. So, but Hong Kong was class, mate. Like, amazing place, like ridiculous environment, and they had a lot of money, so everything was put on, lots of tours around the world. It was a good place to cut your teeth as a coach, and while still playing, you can kind of get away with it a little bit, can't you? So
did you get along to many of the Hong Kong Sevens and enjoy that like most of the world do? Or
yeah, mate, or part of our roles we had to kind of work, or they say do a bit of work there, do a little bit of hospitality, a bit of work or whatever. So I always did it every year, but that side of it, we've got the links. Like, we're a full-time 15s and 7s program, so we kind of do a bit of coaching across both spectrums, and the men's and women's and all that kind of stuff as well. So was quite heavily involved with the 7s and the 15s and all that as well. But it's a pretty loose city, mate. It's fucking not loose, it's mad. But in a good way. It's a real good balance of the rugby side of it. Lots of Aussies, Kiwis, English, Scottish, lots of expats over there, because you can go out there, they give you accommodation, flights, you get paid a little bit of money, they get you jobs. So it's a good gig for kind of, and you don't have to be a ridiculous rugby player, but it's just a lifestyle, and tour around Asia and that, mate. It's pretty cool. We loved it, mate. And I don't think, if it wasn't, and we'll talk about it later, probably if it wasn't for Nottingham, I don't think I would have come back. I only come back because of what the club meant for me. Like, I went through the interview process, and I turned them down 2 or 3 times, and I said I didn't want to do it because I fucking loved Hong Kong. I loved the lifestyle. We were living out by the beach. We had a nice place. It's an amazing place. And then kind of probably dragged me back in, Simon Beefham and that lot, and all the people I knew. The board was still similar to the board that when I played, so it was a massive opportunity to try not turn the club around again, but it was come out of COVID, and it was part-time, and it needed a bit of love. So pretty passionate about the club and the whole of Nottingham and the community game and all that kind of stuff. So that probably dragged me out of a fucking amazing lifestyle that I was living. But now I'm back, mate. I'm back.
I'm coming to Nottingham, everyone's dream.
I said I'd never, made a left, and I was like, sold my house, sold everything, and I was like, I'm never coming back to the UK. It's cold, it's fucking miserable. I've done 11 years. All my kids are born here, mate, so they got British passports, but they don't think they're bloody British because they've been in Hong Kong for 9 years, and we said we're done, and then shit, we've been back here 2.5 years and just bought a house and settled in now, mate. So loving it, to be honest. But yeah, full circles, mate.
Yeah, I understand you're just up the road from me, actually.
The mighty Newton.
Yeah, that's right. I'm in Loudham, so I'm just down the hill. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. Well, I literally live on a pub, Hammo, so you'll have to come and have a beer. Well, just one beer for you, though, because we know what you're like.
Yeah, correct. That'll be a shandy. Or a posh Corona, mate. That's all. One or the
other. Well, not in there. It's absolutely fortune. While we're on the Hong Kong thing, one of the things that I remember hearing and I was incredibly jealous of immediately was your coordination of the Lions tour.
Yeah.
How did that go? Because I'm guessing Coley would have been on that tour.
Is that when they come through Hong Kong? Or
yeah,
I like. So again, like everything's interlinked over there. So it's all of us club. So we've got 6 clubs over there, but we're all employed by the Hong Kong Rugby Union. So when events like that come over, they are like, right, who's doing this? Who's liaison officer for that? Who's kind of? So I kind of ended up putting my hand up. I was like, I'll be liaison officer for the Barbarians. So I was kind of tied into that when they played the Lions, but it's all kind of fucking everyone's all linked in together. So that was pretty cool. So caught up with all that lot. Jim Hamilton was out with the Barbars, but yeah. So a lot of the guys come out. They kind of, the Hong Kong Sevens are so big, they just fly randoms out, and quite a lot of guys would come out that I kind of knew for hospitality or whatever. So yeah, events like that, that was pretty class. And then we ended up, when the Lions went to New Zealand, I tied up a month back in New Zealand when the Lions were on, back in a bit of CPD in New Zealand and that kind of stuff. Through the Hong Kong Rugby Union. So that kind of all tied in bloody lovely for the Lions tour. So we did a bit of CPD at the Chiefs and a few other clubs, and then ended up watching 2 or 3 Lions games and a couple of tests, all thanks to a few people in the right connections, mate. So yeah.
Not a bad gig if you can get it. And we've already mentioned it. You've come back to Nottingham as head coach in a championship that is remarkably different from what you were used to when you left. What's it like at the moment in that kind of coach model, just in the league as it is?
Yeah, it's tough, mate, because we were full time, so I only knew it as a full time league. You know, it's apart from when we were playing in Island Avenue and it was part-time for a few years, but then for most of my time, probably 8 years or whatever, we're full-time or there or thereabouts. So I only kind of knew it as that. Coming back into it, I didn't quite know what to expect as a part-time, what the club was running at. So I come into it, and we were Tuesday, Thursday night. It was a fucking shambles, really, like trying to compete in the champion. Oh, no, it'd be like you coaching at Paviers or you guys, and competing against Airline and Doncaster and Pirates at a full time, like it doesn't make sense. And so they had a lot of players at the club that they kind of just put a team together after COVID, and some of the guys were driving like 2 hours to training that didn't really care. The club meant nothing to them; they just wanted a gig. So I kind of walked into a team about a month into pre-season, and I kind of inherited this, and it was tough because I left as a player, and I kind of knew what like you talked about, the people I had, the people we had around us were ridiculous, and it made fucking Glax's life pretty easy, I'd say. Do you know what I mean? Because of who we had around, the caliber of players. So I kind of walked back in not thinking, but you just expect, you'll have bang, 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 and it will, senior leadership guys will take control of this. And it's a bit of a rude awakening. So we kind of, we've gone to 3 days a week now, which was a big push. We've got quite a lot of guys out of the community now, like a model that when I was playing for a while, we've probably got 8 guys out coaching in schools and universities and colleges and that kind of stuff. And that just gives me a few more full-time-ish guys, if that makes sense. So probably got anywhere between 6 to 12 guys training in the morning in schools, and then they'll go coach for a few hours. And then we're training 3 nights a week now. So we've turned it around in the last couple of years, which is really good. Like we've got me full-time coach, we've got full-time S&C, full-time physios. We're trying to do as best as we can to have nearly a full-time environment and a part-time, 3 nights a week, and which is a hard sell because some of the guys are working. You imagine doing a whole day's work and then have to train your ass off at a ridiculous level 3 days a week, and then gym in the mornings, and then it's tough, isn't it? It's a tough gig. But that's where we're at the moment. Will the club go back full-time if the league changes? Prem 1, Prem 2, they're talking about in the next year or two. I think it will have to go full-time if that happens. And if that did happen, we'd be probably in a good position to go full-time. But I can't see that happening for a year or two yet because there'd be a lot of funding having to come from the RFU, TV, whatever it is, which at the moment they're not doing it. So the same shit, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like they've cut 500,000 off the budget from the RFU and said, just deal with it. Some of the big clubs, do you know what I mean? Some of the big clubs can deal with it. But then you're seeing now, you're seeing Jersey, what's happened there. You're seeing Pirates, their money man that's put money in for the last 25 years, he's pulling back. So they're probably looking at a part-time model next year, which is a massive thing for them. So it's kind of, I think it's make or break for a lot of clubs. Some clubs are ailing and they've got a silly amount of money, millions, but Do you know what I mean? It's dealing with, like, we're playing Ealing in 2 weeks, and let's say their 2 second rows that'll play against us will be the same as our whole playing budget.
Yeah.
They're getting paid more than Premiership second rows. How the fuck? How do you compete with that? Well, we will, because we've got a good bunch of men that like kicking the shit out of people. But it's a tough. There's a big bloody, between the full-time and part-time teams. But mate, that's what it is. Like, it's taken me a couple of years to get. I walked in probably a bit bloody blinded, and then like, we've worked really hard over the last couple of years to get we think quite a good model at the moment. Good people at the club that give a shit about the club, and where we want to go in the next couple of years as well. So it's just pretty exciting, mate. Hence the challenge to come back and try get it back where we need it, mate.
No, definitely. I mean, from what I've heard and what I see, and I speak to 1 or 2 of the lads that play for you, that they're all enjoying it, and you've spruced up what was quite a frustrating period for the club. And to be fair, I heard quite early, because a little Dicky Bird told me you were coming back, and I think I remember texting you quite early on saying congratulations. But it sounds like you're going in the right direction, and hopefully, like you say, that funding comes back, because it's since me and you were playing in that level, it's almost entirely disappeared. So it'd be good to see that back. Anyway, my next bit, I've just written down here nicknames. Right, so I had a few nicknames, mainly to do with my forehead or my general appearance. But PTB was my original nickname, which was Phil the Burn, because of our French conditioning coach. And I seem to remember having a whole wall in the old gym dedicated to me, or just to abuse me. Your nickname, Hammo, apart from Hammo, obviously, which is quite obviously just a shortened version of your second name. What was your nickname? Do you remember what your nickname was?
I've got a few, mate. I've got Clubs.
That's the one I'm looking for.
Oh, God. Fuck, mate. I don't care about this shit. I've got Clubs, I'll tell you about. I've got Gammo. Were you there when Ellie Williams were there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll tell you that one as well. So Clubs, no. So, well, no, you should think I'm a tough bastard, actually. So I broke my hand. I broke my hand playing against Leicester Tigers at Welford Road in the pre-season game. I tried to clothesline the 9. Hard as I could, and he ducked, and I kind of hit him in the head, shattered my hand, and I was like, yeah, I'll be all right. Carried on, and then they put a cast on it, and then they said, you're going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. I was like stuff I am. So the season was starting in 2 weeks. So they kind of took the cast off, and they made a hard plastic bit, but I had to train with it, and they taped it on, and I had shit hands anyway, man. I had no skills. I was a shit rugby player. I just had a lot of grunt, mate, and could hit shit. So, as you'd know, but they kind of taped this big hard bit on my hand, and then every time I went to play rugby, the ball got past me, and I somehow, when you go do something and you fall into something, you push it harder. I'd go hit the ball, and the ball would fly out. I'd be fucking timing the ball, or I'd go for a kickoff and put my hand up and punch the ball. I don't know why. That's not normal. But the boy would sit there and piss himself and go, fucking Clubs, mate, club hands. And then I got that off, and I still had good hands. So that stuck with me, really. So
that season, so I was I was 18 or 19 that year that you did your hand. And obviously when you got injured, I'm thinking, I might get a sniff here. And then, because me and Hammo essentially played in the same position, and then obviously you refused to be injured like you always did, which is fucking irritating. And then you came back, and you were quite heavy-handed at the best of times. But the best one was when you were sort of free from that injury. Remember going down to play Mounts Bay at Penzance?
Yeah.
And when we hosed them, they weren't great, were they? But Hammo, we used to play this game plan where me and Hammo would end up on the wing at the end of a certain phase. And I remember sort of beating one defender and passing Hammo the ball, and he caught it. So I was like, yes, we're away. And we run in, and he just like punched it out of his own hand straight into time. And we must have, on the analysis on the Monday, we must have watched that about 15 times, just trying to work out how he did it.
I forgot about that. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I remember that journey for a specific reasons that I literally drove from Durham to the training ground at Nottingham and got on the bus from Nottingham down to Penzance. So I was travelling for 9 hours or something during the day. And Glax asked me why I looked tired the next morning.
Yeah, no shit, mate. No. And then, mate, there was that, and then Gammo was another one where Ali Williams randomly turned up and needed 4 weeks of rugby before the World Cup. So Glax is another fucking pulled all out of rabbit out of the hat. And then he started fucking Gammo, come here. And everyone was like, mate, what's he talking about? And he stood up in the meeting. He's like, Gammo said this. And then everyone's like, well, who the fuck's Gammo? He's like, that's Gammo. I was like, mate, no, that's Hammo. He's like, all right, mate. So I saw him in Hong Kong as well, mate, randomly. He was at the Hong Kong Sevens. He's like, Gammo! Gammo, you cunt! I was like, mate, I ain't even fucking known him for like 5 weeks. He's like, Gammo! I was like, yeah, mate, thanks. My name's not Gammo, mate, but I'll take it.
I remember being on when he first arrived, I couldn't believe that he was there.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
It was mad. But going out with him and him taking a phone call while we're on a night out with Dan Carter, just like absolute name drop in the middle of a night out.
He's a freak, man. I've got another good one for you, which you might find quite funny. When I was 19, I was playing in Wellington, and I was captain Wellington, like on the fringe of MPC, and they brought back all the All Blacks, and they had like Philo Tiatia, Tana Umaga, Christian Cullen, all this lot. And I was 19, I was captain of all of those guys. Randomly, I was shitting myself, and Philo Tiatia, big bastard, ain't he? He thought my name was Ham, so everyone called me Hammo, but he called me Ham, and I was too scared to fucking say anything. And I was the captain, and he's like, come on, Ham, you're doing this. And I was like, all right, mate. So all the boys would like give me shit, call me Ham for ages, like, because I was too scared to say to like, man, I'm not, you see the size of that prick? So yeah, I've had a few names, mate, but yeah, you pick and choose who you say it back to, mate. So
well, the clubs one actually became like a thing at the club, didn't it? Where every week, so Tom, you know, you do like man of the match and dick of the day after a game.
Yeah.
At Nottingham, we used to do biggest hit. You'd get like a little baseball bat, which I've got in my bedroom still. You'd get someone had like a teddy bear or something, wasn't there, that you had to take out to train in for being soft or something?
Yeah.
And then one was just a bib, like a Gilbert bib, like we've got up at Pabs, with a massive like foam hand on the front of it. And that was for clubs of the week. And the amount of joy we would get if Hammo got clubs of the week was ridiculous.
I'd lose my head, eh? But
yeah, so just harking back to our wonderful time at Nottingham, there was somewhat of a drinking culture. Somewhat being there was a real issue with drinking. Well, Nottingham. That's obviously not going to be the same now with it not being full time. But do you remember any stories of that period? I know you weren't out all the time. You used to love a sort of an 11 o'clock smoke bomb, but
there's a few like we used to go with. Did you used to go with Nigel Each?
I would avoid it at all costs if possible, but yes, I did occasionally.
Yeah.
He was a loose man. He'd come to the club the other day. Good man, but loose man. But we'd end up in kind of ridiculous walkabout or the works or media nightclubs, and there'd just be rounds and rounds. Joe Duffy would have somehow boxes of fucking reef, like a 24 box of reef. And I was like, mate, you can't be walking around with that. He's like, mate, you just go sit in the corner and drink it all. He does it all. So no, mate, there's like somehow there's there's a punch up at the walkabout, which isn't condoned, or Shiner got bottled randomly. He's a mad bastard to be the worst person bottled. And I wasn't there. I'd gone home by this time. A massive punch up at the walkabout. And Monty went running outside to jump on the guy's back that was bottling Shiner, and he fell over, didn't he? Tripped on the fucking step and broke his ankle and fractured his tibia and fibia. I knew nothing about this. I get a phone call like at 8 in the morning on the Sunday morning. Glack's absolutely losing his head at me, going, "Why do you let these boys fucking do all this?" Rah, rah. I'm like, "Mate, what's happened?" He's like, "Monty's in bloody hospital. He's out for 6 months. It's your fault." And I was like, "Mate, I wasn't out with them. Like, we shouldn't be out drinking like that." I was like, "Mate, they fucking do that Wednesdays and Saturdays." But they just, they're a bit loose, eh? So there's loads of ones. Probably the worst was turned up on a Thursday after Stash and those boys were going on a Wednesday to Ocean or whatever. And I'd have to go, "Boys, what the fuck are you doing? Like, we've got a massive championship game." But it was not acceptable then, but it's just, don't know, they just a bit old school and they turn the blind eye and they absolutely rip up on a Saturday or a Sunday.
That was it. It was if you can back it up on a Saturday, it was absolutely play on, wasn't it? And I
So,
ended up getting caught in that quite a bit while I was still at school.
yeah, correct, mate. You're a young buck. I'm too old, mate. I had to look after my hands, mate. I couldn't imagine being hungover and trying to catch a ball with these hands, mate. It'd be pretty bad.
So one of the great nights out that I remember with you, because there wasn't a great load where you stayed out real late, but was New Year's Eve when you found out about the twins when Rosie was back in NZ. So
Gamble.
Yeah, that turned into an interesting night because so just to give it a layer, we had a game actually on the 2nd. Well, we were meant to have a game against Moseley away on the 2nd, and you'd basically done a captain's gamble. Basically told all the lads that we're going out to the Monkey Tree because the game's going to get called off. So it wasn't until about 6 or 7 p.m. on New Year's Eve that we found out the game was actually off. But Hammo was adamant, so we were going out anyway. And we got to the Monkey. Well, we got to someone's house, and you said, "Oh, Rosie just rang me. She's gone home to see her parents. She's pregnant with twins." So I think I've told the story on here about Hammo's one testicle, so that you're famous for that already on here, Hammo. But yeah, so Hammo's produced twins with one nut, which was always quite interesting. And then we just had one of the most ridiculous nights out I've ever had, where I woke up the next day with the sorest eyes in the world because all we did all night was lime each other. It was mental.
Yeah, no, I think I'm still paying for it now, actually. I've got a credit card somewhere for that one. Look, you lose your head, don't you? Sometimes you just get real excited. And if I go out, I'll if I pull the pin, I'll pull the pin, and I'm like a complete binge drinker. Still a bit like that now. If I have one, I'll have one, and then I'll probably die for about 4 days. But no, so probably going back to that story, mate. I think if the boys think the captain can pull the pin and you guys probably go double as bloody hard. That's your problem, mate. So, but again, I reckon if we had to back up on the 2nd or whatever, we would have done it. It would have been hard, but we're kind of that mindset that we had a bit of fun, didn't we, in that era? And the boys pulled they worked hard when they had to work hard, but they still didn't mind a drink or two, did they? So,
who was the loosest in that main Nottingham squad that people talk about?
Probably. Yeah, Stash Monty was pretty loose, wasn't he? Agree with that?
But he was always quite controlled with it.
Yeah. But would be a rubber arm. It wouldn't be hard to say, "Oh, let's have a beer."
Usaz was just there and noisy.
Didn't Usaz? So yeah. He, I still speak to him regularly, so he come to Hong Kong and coach with me. So he's back in Australia now. He's doing bloody well. Who else?
Rousey was bad.
What's that? Rousey, actually, last weekend, Rousey.
Saw this.
Elksy and Stash all come to our game last week, and they're like coming out on the piss, and they were just smashing pints like it was going on. I was like, "Mate, I'm not going out." And they just kept on like buying me Coronas, and I was like, just kept taking the Coronas and passing them to people. Like, fuck, I'm driving, but they were literally like they were 20 again. Yeah, Rousey was pretty bad. Oh, they're all pretty bad, eh? Duffy was like a silent assassin, just wouldn't say anything.
You were talking earlier about Duffy and his crates. If you were in walkabout, so he would just walk behind the bar, grab a crate, leave the money on the bar, and then if you were on, they used to have these tables in walkabout, didn't they, which were sort of waist height, He'd slap the tray, and if you were stood around that table by the point that case hit the table, you were in trouble. Like you were
You were
not
in.
eating until they were all gone. It was
And
terrifying.
He would just keep going and going and going. Like, yeah, typical Maori fella that doesn't mind a drink or fucking 74.
and then
It could be anything there, couldn't it? It could be WKD, could be Snake, could be bloody Steinlark, like could be anything, mate.
It was horrific.
What are you doing? He's like, mate, they don't want to go home.
By that point, he's about pretty much like totally incommunicative. Like he's so drunk that he can't talk to you, so he just stares at you, and that's even worse.
Oh shit! I reckon they're. I don't know. Yeah, be good to do a reunion and see who's real. Like to see who's still pretty loose, but also,
yeah, I think that might. Me and Montague got together a few months ago when we came to see you actually, and then I had to go before you got back into the changing room, into the clubhouse. But
that turned out pretty loose that night too.
Yeah, well, we had a game the next day, so I'm pretty glad I left when I did.
That went pretty dark. We went into town, and yeah, that went pretty loose. It was good crack actually. That was the pin was gone for that one, thank God. But it was once every 4 months.
Well, I saw Logan the next day, and he was in a bad way.
Yeah. No, Smithy and those guys were just like next level. So nothing changes, mate.
So we normally finish on these two bits, Hammo, because I know you're a busy man and you like an early night.
Not really, mate. I've got line outs to do for Earling next week, mate. So don't worry about that.
Oh, you fire over, mate. My line out's on fire at Pavs.
It's only because our opposition only lift at 2.
Yeah, well, I haven't got a hooker either, so
true.
We normally do sort of best and worst rugby moments. I'll give you the choice what you want to do first, best or worst, but I'd love to know yours. I mean, the best are going to be pretty good because you played with some great people.
Yeah, probably worst. Worst outcome probably was, you probably told the story about when I lost my nut. That was
harrowing. Harrowing is the word I'd use.
Yeah, so up at Otley, wasn't it? And went in. We were up for 50 minutes into the game, made a tackle, and when I jumped, I wasn't in a chop tackle. I'd be so bad at these rules today. So I jumped on the neck and like bear hugged and fucking used my legs to chop him down, and then Alex Dodge come flying around and kneed me straight in the nuts, and I was fuming. But you know when you hit the nuts, you're like that hurts, but you just shake it off, don't you? Like I'm all right. And then Rousey was a bit like, mate. I was like, man, I'm in a bit of trouble here. And Rusty's like, get up, mate. We've got like half an hour to go. We're going to beat these buggers. So it was one of those, and he's like, just carry on. I was like, all right. And I put my hand down my pants. I was like, something's not right here. But carried on, played the rest of the game. I was in a world of trouble, and I don't mind an injury or two, but I was like, something's not right. And then half the game, my nut was like, shit. It was about the size of this. It's like the size of that.
She's got a snow globe as you.
That's the paperweight, but there you go. Yeah. That just reminds me for podcasts like this. And then randomly, they said it died on impact, and we're going to take your nut out. So about 4 days later, they took it out, and I think I come back about a week later training with a cricket box on. So I was like, mate, this ain't stopping me. So I think I was back playing in about 3 weeks with the cricket box, which was the boys.
I've never heard a bollock die on impact.
Mate.
How big is his knee?
Mate, it shattered at impact.
Dodgy's got big old knees.
He's just clumsy prick. I was fuming. I wanted to fucking fill in. I wanted to fill someone in, mate. I was that fuming. And then I watched on the video. I was like, Dodgy. I was like, you absolute wanker. He's in my own team. Yeah, so that was probably the worst. But mate, it is what it is. It's a good story. So it'll stay with me for life. But yeah,
and that is the problem. It's not. It managed to produce twins, though. So
yeah, mate. Bloody hell!
Double swimmers. At least you didn't have 2. You could have had quads.
I know, absolute psycho kids. It's class. And then, so yeah, it's probably that's life, isn't it? And then probably best memory, probably that sits in my mind would be when I got the opportunity to play for Leicester Tigers, 2008, 2009, 2009 against South Africa. Randomly, I was down to play on the Sunday team for Leicester Tigers. They were playing Leeds and they were running two teams because they're playing South Africa on the Friday night. So trained with the second team pretty much all week, and then Richard Cockrell rang me on the Thursday night, like late Thursday night, saying Ben Kay's just been called in the England team. Are you right to sit on the bench against South Africa tomorrow? I was like, mate, is this a fucking prank call or what?
Am I all right? No, I'm busy actually.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I'm on a date with my wife, taking me out for dinner. So I said, yeah, whatever, mate. Yeah, and then I said, yeah. He goes, you won't play. Don't worry. Like, we're not going to put you on because you don't know anything. And I said, all right. Didn't know the lineouts. Didn't know shit, mate. Turned up the just clubbing the ball out there. Turned up to Welford Road. Had to ask the security guard where the changing room was. Never been there in my life. And they're like, who the hell are you? I was like, mate, I'm Craig Hammond. I'm playing today. And they're like, never heard of you. I was like, mate, just fucking tell me where the changing rooms are. Walked in the changing rooms and. Mate, everyone's looking at me like, who's this bloody weirdo? And then I kind of went and, you go through the change rooms and all the subs and that sit out the back. So Tom Youngs and all those guys and a few young boys that I played with at Nottingham, they were all playing. So I was shitting myself because it was like just opened the new stadium there. So it was like 25,000 sellout. And then after about 9 minutes, Brett Deacon got taken off for concussion and blood. And they said, you're on. So I went on. And played the rest of the game and played pretty well. We ended up winning against South Africa. The crowd was ridiculous. I didn't know. I was trying to do line-outs. I didn't know line-outs. I was playing against world champs at that stage, like people you see on TV. And it was one of those games where you either rip in, don't you, or you play like shit. And I actually played pretty well. So that kind of memory, still got the shirt today and all that kind of stuff. I got a South African shirt as well. So that kind of memory for me would sit pretty close to my heart for the kind of rest of my life. Probably most enjoyable moment anyway. So it's one of those, you put yourself in a situation, you either strive and you rip in or you walk backwards and cry in the corner. So I went the other way, thank God. So
you were crying to begin with and then...
Oh, yeah, mate.
I mean, yeah, I remember that. I remember you not being at training as well, so it was a bit quieter, but it was weird because, like you say, you've been called up because they were trying to put out two teams. I think someone else played for them on the Sunday.
Yeah. One of the other boys.
So we had a bit of a weaker team that week, but we were playing someone pretty naff anyway.
Yeah.
It was a weird week, and then everyone was like, "Oh, Hammo's been selected for Hammo's playing South Africa. Hammo's playing South Africa." So we were all watching you on TV, so it was quite an odd.
Mate, the good news is my parents watching in New Zealand because it was all live on Sky Sports New Zealand, so that was pretty cool. But then the stupid thing was, mate, I thought, well, there's no way they'll be playing on Sunday. Well, like, Cocker's like, mate, you're starting on Sunday. So I played 80 minutes on Sunday for Tigers against Leeds. I was like, they didn't even take me off. He's like, I'll just start and see what happens. And I played 80 minutes. And then fucking on the Wednesday, I captained the Barbarians on the Wednesday down in, where was that, Portsmouth or whatever.
Was that the Plymouth one? The Plymouth one.
Plymouth, sorry, yeah. So then... down there on the Monday for the Barbarians, played on the Wednesday, captained them, and then on the Sunday we played Bristol at Bristol. So within it's 8 days, I had 4 pretty ridiculous games that kind of you should never do in your bloody whole lifetime, really. But yeah, it was good memory of that week, mate. So pretty special.
That Bristol game, I came off the bench for us, was put on the wing against Dan. What's the sevens?
Dan Norton?
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah,
you're rapping, mate. You're rapping, so you get away with that, mate.
No, he made me look an absolute prick. He literally weighed half my weight and was pretty much half my height, and he did me in about 2 meters.
He is ridiculous.
Well, that's class, and yeah, I mean. I had a great time playing with you, mate. I won't lie. I really enjoyed my time at Nottingham, and you were a fantastic captain and shaped a lot of what I do with the lads at Pavs. I kind of did a bit of captaincy when you needed a rest when you got a bit older, but it was an honour playing with you, and I really enjoy watching you do what you're doing with Nottingham now, mate. It's good to see. So thank you so much for wasting your Monday evening with us.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you need any help with them lineouts, mate, I'm just a text away.
Mate, I've got Nigel Hall back doing our scrums. I've got Stenny back doing our kicking coaches and all. Like, it's good, mate. We're just trying to get people back involved that give a shit about the club. So it's awesome, mate. There's some good people around, isn't there? So
to be fair, you could get Phil help you before on the line-outs, and then his brother Nath will tell you in the marquee after the game how they could have gone better anyway. So
unfortunately, Craig's had the joy of playing with Nathan as well. So
every time I see Nath, he's about 12 pints deep. The pricks.
Oh, so you see him on a Wednesday morning then? Yes.
Either tells me I've done an awesome job or I'm an absolute shit coach. One or the other. So nothing changes there, mate. So no, but no, appreciate it, mate. And oh yeah, I wouldn't mind coming down and seeing what you guys are doing down there as well. Be good for me to have a look or come help out if you need any ideas or.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that would be really, really useful. I might have one or two players that I think you should take a look at, the younger lads. So let's get that sorted, and then definitely. I would love to see you up at the stump.
You can do it on a Thursday, and you can host a quiz, Hammo.
Yeah, Hammo doing a quiz, that'd be good.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'm reading right, mate, so don't worry about that. That's all right. Someone asked me the questions, I'll be on fire, don't worry.
Sound. Right. Thanks
awesome.
very much, Hammo, mate.
Thank you very much. Awesome. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.